Ladies and gentlemen, I want to begin by saying we are living in extraordinary times. When I look at the story unfolding for silver, I see something that is bigger than most people realize. I see the convergence of a structural shift, pressing imbalances, and a moment when the rules of the game may be changing. If you listen carefully, the machine is speaking. Today, I invite you to join me on a journey, not a journey of hype or fear, but a journey of clarity, discipline, and through the machine thinking. Will there be a silver squeeze now that silver is critical? The most important step in navigating what comes next is to embrace reality as it actually is, not as we want it to be. Reality doesn't care about opinions, narratives, or emotional reactions. It is governed by cause and effect relationships. When something becomes critical, like silver is becoming today, the worst mistake is to deny the implications simply because they make us uncomfortable. The only way to deal well with a changing world is to see it clearly and accept it fully. Too many people let biases cloud their judgment. They focus on the short-term noise rather than the long-term truth. They argue against the facts instead of aligning with them. When a structural shift begins forming, the instinct of the crowd is often to dismiss it. They say, "This time is not different." They lean on past patterns as if the future must repeat them, but that's not how reality works. Reality evolves, and sometimes it evolves in ways that contradict what we have grown accustomed to. Silver is entering a new phase. Supply is tight. Demand is rising. Strategic value is increasing. There is no benefit in pretending these forces are irrelevant. You either deal with them or you get surprised by them. And surprises in markets are rarely pleasant. If you want to navigate well, you need the humility to accept that the world may be shifting beneath your feet. You cannot cling to outdated assumptions. You cannot insist that yesterday's rules will govern tomorrow. You have to let go of the illusion of stability and accept that instability is part of the new landscape. Embracing reality also means being comfortable with uncertainty. It means understanding that you cannot predict every detail and you cannot control the outcomes, but you can prepare. You can recognize the range of possibilities and adjust accordingly. Too many people want certainty before they act, a guarantee that the squeeze is coming, a guarantee that prices will behave in a particular way. But certainty is never available. What is available is probability. You can identify the forces pushing the system in one direction or another. You can understand which scenarios are more likely, which are less likely, and which would be catastrophic if ignored. Reality demands that you acknowledge asymmetric risks. Sometimes the risk of doing nothing is greater than the risk of being early. Sometimes the risk of ignoring new forces is greater than the discomfort of adapting. Silver is in such a position right now. If demand continues to strengthen while supply remains constrained, the consequences could be meaningful. Whether it becomes a classic squeeze or simply a sustained upward repricing, the fundamentals are pointing toward pressure. Ignoring that pressure is not strength, it's blindness. Another part of embracing reality is recognizing that human behavior plays a decisive role. People don't respond rationally when pressure builds. They respond emotionally. They chase trends when they see momentum. They panic when they feel uncertainty. Reality includes these human tendencies, and you must account for them. Markets are emotional machines as much as economic machines. If silver becomes a focus of attention, that attention alone can amplify its movement. That is part of the reality too. Dealing with reality means preparing for outcomes even if they contradict your preferences. You might want the market to behave smoothly. You might want silver to move gradually, predictably, calmly, but the world doesn't work according to preference. If a squeeze emerges, it won't ask your permission. It will unfold the way structural forces dictate, and if no squeeze emerges, despite the conditions appearing ripe, that is reality as well, you must be ready to adapt to either scenario, not emotionally attached to only one. What matters most is clarity. Clarity in observation, clarity in thought, clarity in decision making. When you strip away biases, noise, and ego, you begin to see things as they are. You start to notice the signals that others overlook. You develop the ability to navigate complexity with composure, and that is the advantage, not the ability to predict perfectly, but the ability to respond wisely. Reality is not an enemy to be avoided, it is a teacher. It rewards those who face it directly and punishes those who deny it. Right now, silver is signaling a shift, and those signals are becoming louder. The disciplined approach is to acknowledge the signals, study them, and position intelligently. Embrace the truth of the situation and deal with it as it is, because the world is not waiting for anyone's comfort. It is moving forward, and the only real choice we have is whether we move with it or get left behind. Preparing for multiple scenarios is one of the most important disciplines you can cultivate when dealing with changing market environments. The mistake most people make is to anchor themselves to a single storyline. They decide what they want to believe and then bend every piece of information to fit that belief. That approach may feel comfortable, but it's dangerous. The world doesn't operate according to fixed narratives. It operates according to conditions that shift, collide, accelerate, or reverse. The key is to see the full spectrum of what could happen, the likely scenarios, the unlikely ones, and even the extreme ones, and then position yourself in a way that you can survive and thrive under any of them. Right now, silver sits in a place where several outcomes are possible. The forces are strong, but their interaction is uncertain. Demand is rising due to industrial needs. Supply is tight due to production limitations. Macro conditions are volatile. Investor behavior is unpredictable. Geopolitical tensions are rising. Any one of these forces can amplify the others or neutralize them. The job is not to decide which single force will dominate, but to map the interplay among them. Scenario 1 is the obvious one, a squeeze. The conditions are aligned: limited supply, accelerating demand, increasing strategic value, rising attention. If those forces continue converging, the imbalance could intensify quickly. Industrial buyers might rush to secure inventory, investors might pile in, confidence could give way to momentum. Momentum could become narrative. And once narrative enters the system, psychology amplifies the move. Prices can adjust faster than fundamentals. You need to be prepared for that. Scenario 2 is the delayed squeeze. The structural imbalances remain, but the full expression of them takes longer. Maybe macro pressures distract market participants. Maybe production temporarily increases. Maybe the global economy slows, reducing short-term demand. The squeeze doesn't vanish, but its timing shifts. Many people underestimate timing. They think being early is the same as being wrong. Holding a correct view but getting the timeline wrong leads to emotional decisions. Preparing for multiple scenarios removes that emotional trap. It allows you to stay patient and rational. Scenario 3 is the non-squeeze. This is the scenario most people avoid thinking about because it contradicts their enthusiasm, but ignoring it is unwise. There are conditions under which silver could remain range bound, or even decline. Technological innovation could discover partial substitutes. Energy transitions might slow. Financial tightening could reduce speculative flows. A recession could temporarily soften industrial demand. Without acknowledging these possibilities, you risk overcommitting to a single outcome. Preparing for multiple scenarios means accepting even the scenarios you dislike. Then there is scenario 4, the extreme one, a shock, a geopolitical disruption, a major supply interruption, a systemic event. These are low probability, high impact events. They don't happen often, but when they do, they change the entire landscape. In such events, even stable markets can break. When a commodity is critical, shocks can magnify quickly. Preparing for this scenario doesn't mean expecting it. It means not being blindsided by it. The advantage of scenario planning is clarity. When you lay out all the potential paths, you begin to see your vulnerabilities and your opportunities. You become more balanced. You stop reacting emotionally to every price movement. You become comfortable with uncertainty. You can create a portfolio or a strategy that is resilient rather than fragile. You focus less on short-term noise and more on long-term positioning. Preparation also requires constantly updating your understanding. As new information comes in, you recalibrate. You don't stubbornly hold on to old views. You evolve with the data. You adjust your probabilities. You refine your strategy. That is how thoughtful decision-making works. It is dynamic, not static. Another important aspect is not viewing scenarios as predictions, but as possibilities. You might assign probabilities to them, but you do not attach emotions. You simply understand that the world can unfold in many ways. This allows you to create a strategy that works across environments. It protects you from surprise. It frees you from the trap of being right or wrong. It anchors you in adaptability. In the end, preparing for multiple scenarios makes you stronger. It gives you the confidence not because you know exactly what will happen, but because you know how to respond to whatever happens. It shifts your mindset from reactive to proactive. Whether silver squeezes, delays, stabilizes, or shocks, you are ready. That readiness is what separates those who navigate intelligently from those who get swept away. Staying disciplined and clear-minded is often the toughest part of navigating markets because it requires you to manage yourself before you manage anything else. When uncertainty grows, when narratives start competing, when volatility rises, most people get emotional, they lose perspective, they chase what's moving, they panic when things drop, they become reactive instead of strategic. But if you want to navigate an environment where silver is becoming increasingly critical, where structural pressures are building, discipline and clarity are the qualities that will keep you grounded. Discipline starts with principles. Without principles, you drift with the crowd. You follow whatever feels right in the moment, and the moment rarely leads you in the right direction. Principles give you something stable to hold on to. They prevent you from being pulled into fear or greed. They remind you that the world works in cause, in defect ways, not emotional ways. And when the noise grows loud, principles help you tune into the signals that actually matter. Clarity comes from observing reality deliberately. You cannot see clearly if you are looking through the lens of hope or fear. You have to step outside of yourself and look at the situation objectively. Silver is rising in strategic importance. Supply is constrained. Demand is strengthening. These are facts. But how the market reacts, how fast it moves, when it reprices, those are variables filled with uncertainty. You need to recognize the distinction. Clarity emerges when you separate what is knowable from what is unknowable. Staying disciplined also means resisting the urge to time everything perfectly. Timing is seductive because it promises precision and control, but precision is often an illusion. Markets don't move smoothly. They move in bursts and pauses. They don't follow predictable arcs. They follow pressures and breaks. If you build your strategy around the assumption that you can predict the exact moment the squeeze will happen, you set yourself up for frustration. Instead, discipline teaches you to focus on positioning rather than prediction. You want to be structurally aligned with the forces shaping the future, not emotionally chasing short-term moves. Another part of discipline is diversification of thought. Many people think diversification only applies to assets, but it applies even more to perspectives. If you only consume information that confirms your beliefs, your mind becomes trapped. If you avoid opposing viewpoints, your thinking becomes narrow. A lack of intellectual diversification leads to blind spots. Staying clear-minded requires engaging with views that challenge you. It requires asking yourself regularly, what could I be missing? This question protects you from overconfidence. Emotional balance is another critical element. Markets are emotional ecosystems. They reward patience and punish impulsiveness. Discipline involves not only what you do, but what you avoid doing. Avoid reacting to every price spike. Avoid panicking during corrections. Avoid mistaking volatility for danger or momentum for certainty. Emotional discipline allows you to stay steady even when the market is shaking. It helps you avoid being part of the crowd that buys tops and sells bottoms. Clarity also requires zooming out regularly. When you zoom in too close, you see noise, daily fluctuations, short-term sentiment, temporary shifts. Zoom out and you see the underlying trend: structural scarcity, rising industrial demand, strategic importance. Zooming out grounds your thinking. It gives you perspective. It reminds you of the broader forces at play. When you stay anchored to the big picture, the short-term turbulence becomes less distracting. Staying disciplined and clear-minded also means acknowledging your limitations. You are not immune to emotional influence. You are not free from cognitive biases. You cannot know everything. Recognizing these limitations is a strength, not a weakness. It keeps you humble. Humility is essential because it frees you from the need to be right. It allows you to be adaptable. It opens your mind to change. And when the world is shifting, as it is now, adaptability is more valuable than certainty. Finally, discipline and clarity must be maintained consistently, not only during exciting moments. It's easy to be disciplined when things are calm. The real test comes when pressure builds, when silver moves fast, when people are shouting predictions, when the market becomes loud. Maintaining composure during those moments is what separates those who navigate well from those who get swept up. It's what allows you to see opportunities others overlook. It's what helps you stay aligned with deeper truths rather than temporary impulses. In the end, staying disciplined and clear-minded is not about avoiding emotion, but about mastering it. It's not about controlling the market, but about controlling how you respond to it. In a world where silver is increasingly critical, clarity and discipline become your greatest competitive advantages. They allow you to act from strength rather than reaction, from understanding rather than noise. If you can hold on to them, you can navigate whatever comes next with confidence and resilience. So let me leave you with this. The moment we are in may be like a door opening. If silver's role is shifting from being just a precious metal to being a critical industrial and strategic metal, then this is no ordinary move. And if the market is waking up to that, then yes, the possibility of a silver squeeze is real. But that possibility carries with it both opportunity and risk. What we must do is this: embrace reality, push aside noise, prepare for multiple outcomes, and act with principles. Because when the paradigm changes, when what was normal becomes outdated, the wise are those who see it early and act accordingly. thank you for your time. I look forward to our continuing journey of discovery together.